Welcome to Polaris Academy. Episode 2, The Sumerians. Welcome back to Polaris Academy. And today, we continue our journey in Mesopotamia, because after people learned how to farm, they began to build the very first great civilization in history. These people were called the Sumerians, so they lived in the southern part of the land, and they created many amazing things that changed the world forever. The Sumerians were a group of people who lived thousands of years ago in southern Mesopotamia, and they were the first people to build large, organized cities. Because they were very clever and hard-working, so they are often called the first true civilization in human history. Mesopotamia was not one single country, but it was a collection of many independent city-states, because each city had its own king, its own laws, and its own walls for protection. Some of the most famous Sumerian cities were called Uruk and Ur, so these places were very busy and full of life. Each Sumerian city had a powerful leader called a king, and the people believed the king was chosen by the gods to protect the city. So the king managed the army, organized the building of canals, and made sure that everyone followed the laws of the land. The Ziggurat. In the center of every Sumerian city, there was a giant temple called a ziggurat, because the Sumerians believed that their gods lived in these tall buildings. And a ziggurat looked like a mountain made of bricks, with many stairs leading to the top. So, it was the most important building in the whole city. The Sumerians believed in many different gods who controlled the rain, the sun, and the rivers, because they wanted to have good harvests and stay safe from floods. So they gave gifts to the gods, and the priests worked in the ziggurats to talk to the gods for the people. One of the greatest gifts from the Sumerians was the invention of writing, because they needed a way to keep records of their crops and trade. So they created a system called Cuneiform. And this was the first time in history that humans recorded their thoughts and information on clay. How they wrote. To write in cuneiform, the Sumerians used a small tool made of reed called a stylus, and they pressed this tool into wet clay tablets to make wedge-shaped marks. Because paper did not exist yet, so after the clay dried, it became a permanent record that could last for thousands of years. Because writing was very difficult, the Sumerians started the first schools called tablet houses, and only a few boys went to these schools to learn how to read and write, because it took many years of practice. So these students became scribes, and they were very important people in society. Because it took many years of practice, so these students became scribes, and they were very important people in society. The Sumerians were also the first people to use the wheel for transportation, because before this invention, moving heavy goods was very slow and difficult. So they built carts and wagons with wooden wheels, and this allowed them to travel faster and trade with distant lands. The Sumerians were excellent at math, and they developed a system based on the number 60, because they used it to measure time in circles. So this is the reason why we have 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour today, and it shows how their ideas still influence our modern lives. The Sumerians looked at the night sky and studied the movements of the stars and planets, because they wanted to create a calendar for farming. So they identified different constellations and used the moon to mark the months of the year, which helped them know when to plant their crop. The Sumerians invented a tool called the Plow to help them turn the soil and plant seeds more easily, because farming was the most important job in Mesopotamia. So, with the plow and irrigation canals, they could grow enough food for thousands of people living in the cities. Society in Sumer was organized into different levels because some people had more power than others. So at the top were the kings and priests. Then there were merchants and scribes. And at the bottom were the farmers and laborers who did the hard work to support the civilization. Sumerian cities became very rich through trade because they had a lot of grain, but they needed materials like wood, stone, and metal. So they sent traders to other lands to exchange their crops for these resources. And this made Mesopotamia a global center of business. The Sumerians wrote the first great story in history called the Epic of Gilgamesh, because it tells the adventures of a famous king and his friend Enkidu. So this story teaches us about the beliefs and the culture of the ancient people who lived in Uruk. The Sumerians were a very advanced people because they built the first cities, invented writing, and created the wheel. And they also developed math systems and irrigation to control the rivers. So their hard work and clever ideas started the story of human civilization. And we still use many of their inventions in our world today. Which of the following was not a Sumerian invention? A. The wheel for transportation. B. Cuneiform writing system. C. The base 60 math system. D. The invention of paper. Thanks for watching. You have finished the second lesson about the amazing Sumerians, and in the next lesson, we will learn about the First Empire and a great leader named Sargon the Akkadian. So thank you for choosing Polaris Academy, and keep practicing your English and history every day.